Before my mother passed, she warned me to keep this face hidden. She whispered that a man too beautiful invites only ruin. So I spent 10 years masking my true self behind ugliness. Heavy ragged bangs obscured half of my features. Thick black frames suppressed my captivating phoenix eyes. Until that moment when the cold, high and mighty CEO, Su Qingyuan, stepped into that mundane coffee shop and slapped the blind date who had just drenched me in coffee. "You shouldn't have to endure such humiliation," she declared. My heart raced like a loyal dog desperate for affection. Yet, by the 3rd year of our marriage, I stood outside a hospital ward hearing the sickening truth. "Did you marry this hideous freak just to spite me? Is this your way of forcing Lu Jingning into this family?" I stood frozen outside the door, clutching the critical condition notice she earned by shielding me, the paper trembling in my hand. Later, she snatched away the suit I bought for her, giving it to her first love. At the gala, she performed a piano duet with him, their fingers entwined. She stood by as her friends accused me of harassment at the police station. "Look at his face," they jeered. "Who would ever bother harassing someone like him?" Then came the crash and explosion that left only one operating room. She gripped Lu Jingming's bleeding hand, demanding they save him first. "His hands are his life, he has to play again," she screamed. Meanwhile, my own face was melting and rotting away. Blood trickled slowly into my ears, feeling just as warm as the handkerchief she once offered me. Until the face I had guarded for 20 years was finally revealed to her. With bloodshot eyes, she chased me all the way to the airport. But I simply removed my glasses and smiled slowly at the cameras. "President Su, that face you claim to love so dearly. I've torn it apart with my own hands. On the day of my 100th blind date, I sat in a dim corner of the cafe. Across from me was a woman draped in a provocative, elegant dress. The moment her eyes landed on me, her brow contorted into a knot of pure disgust. "Mr. Shen," she began, her voice dripping with unfiltered contempt. "The matchmaker never mentioned you looked like this." I kept my head low, remaining silent. "To be perfectly honest, I don't know how you have the nerve to show your face," she sneered. "Who on earth would ever want to marry you?" I tightened my grip around my coffee cup. The woman reached for her own drink and suddenly hurled the liquid directly into my face. "This pathetic look suits you much better." The icy liquid cascaded down my cheeks, washing away the dark, muddy foundation I had used to hide my skin, revealing a small patch of snow-white skin beneath. I raised my head and prepared to stand up, when a slender, elegant hand suddenly reached across and delivered a stinging slap to the woman's face. The woman shrieked in shock and pain. A low, freezing, and commanding voice echoed out. I turned my head, only to see a woman dressed in a sharp-tailored suit. She was exceptionally tall, with a figure that possessed effortless grace, deep, piercing eyes, and crimson lips pulled into a tight, stern line. Her entire aura radiated a cold, regal sophistication. At that moment, she was gripping the woman's wrist, her gaze as frigid as a winter frost. "Who do you think you are?" The woman struggled, whimpering. She repeated herself once more. Her voice wasn't loud, yet it carried an unquestionable weight of oppression. The woman was utterly paralyzed by her overwhelming presence, trembling as she stuttered a pathetic apology to me, before scrambling away in total humiliation. The woman finally released her grip, pulling a handkerchief embroidered with subtle patterns from her pocket. She handed it over. "Wipe yourself off." I accepted the handkerchief, completely dazed. "You shouldn't have to endure such degradation." She looked directly at me, her expression calm and unreadable. "Next time this happens, just call the police." With those words, she turned and walked away. I stood there frozen in place, watching her lithe, powerful silhouette as it vanished through the coffee shop entrance. My heart was pounding violently against my ribs. I couldn't get her out of my mind. After returning home, I began my investigation. Her name was Su Qingyuan, the youngest successor to the prestigious Su Group. At 26, she had ruled the family empire for 3 years. Her methods were like a sudden lightning strike, her capabilities utterly unmatched. She was the undisputed perfect woman of the elite circles. What's more rare was her pristine private life, completely devoid of any scandals or rumors. I had fallen for her heart and soul. But before I could even plan a way to get close, Su Qingyuan unexpectedly showed up at my front door. "Mr. Shen," she said, sitting in the Shen family living room, cutting straight to the point. "I want to form a marriage alliance with you." I was utterly stunned. "Why me?" I asked, knowing I looked hideous. Su Qingyuan gazed at me, her eyes calm as she said, "Looks are irrelevant. I believe you are the perfect fit." The word suitable wasn't exactly romantic, but coming from her lips, it made my heart race uncontrollably. Mother warned that being too beautiful invites deception. Yet despite my staged ugliness, she still chose to marry me. I thought I had finally found the one. 3 years into our marriage, Su Qingyuan treated me with immense kindness. She never once showed disdain for my looks. Instead, whenever others gossiped about my appearance, she'd gently take my hand and say, "Yanci, you're wonderful," since I love design. She invested in a studio for me because of my weak stomach. She memorized every single food I had to avoid. Every time she returned from a social event, she'd bring me a bowl of warm porridge on my birthday. She'd cancel all work, no matter how busy, to stay by my side. There was even a time I was in a car accident. My vehicle flipped into a ditch, on the verge of exploding at any second. Su Qingyuan rushed toward the wreckage without hesitation, prying open the mangled door with her bare hands and dragging me out of the metal tomb. We hadn't even cleared 10 meters when the car erupted into a fireball. She used her own body to shield me, the flames licking across her back, leaving behind a massive trail of burns. When I finally woke up in the hospital, the first thing I gasped to the nurse was, "Where's my wife? Is she alright? Miss Su has severe burns on her back, but her life is not in danger." The nurse said she was in the ward next door. I immediately ripped out my IV needle, stumbling desperately toward her room. Just as I was about to push the door open, I heard the sharp voice of Su Qingyuan's mother inside. "Qingyuan, you married such a repulsive man. Turning our entire family into a laughingstock is one thing, but now you're nearly throwing your life away for him. Just how long do you intend to keep up this ridiculous charade?" My hand froze dead on the cold metal door handle. The room fell into a heavy, suffocating silence for several seconds, before Su Qingyuan's voice finally broke through flat hollow, and completely devoid of any detectable emotion. "Mother, you are well aware of exactly what I am after. I knew it. You're still doing all of this for Lu Jingming." His mother's voice shook with pure rage. "Listen to me. You are the most elite successor of this entire lineage. Lu Jingming will never ever set foot in this household. No matter how much you love him, it is utterly useless. And using that freak Shen Yanci to spite us won't work either." I stood paralyzed in the hallway, feeling my entire body turn to ice. What did they just say? For Lu Jingming. Who the hell is Lu Jingming? A wave of paralyzing terror and a crushing sense of doom, like a dark freezing tide, instantly pulled me under and drowned my thoughts. I braced against the wall, retreating slowly to hide in my room. Several agonizing seconds passed, before my trembling fingers could even navigate my phone, sending a frantic message to a private investigator. "Investigate every single connection between Su Qingyuan and this man Lu Jingming. I want every detail, no matter how small." Every second spent waiting for that reply felt like a slow execution. My head was buzzing with a deafening, chaotic noise, as his mother's piercing words replayed on a loop, like a flurry of poisoned daggers, stabbing relentlessly into the heart I had just begun to open, tearing my emotions into a bloody, unrecognizable mess. Finally, the file pinged onto my screen. With a shaking hand, I tapped the attachment. Inside was a massive stack of digital documents, accompanied by a mountain of high-resolution photos. Lu Jingming, the eldest son of the Lu family and her first love. The two of them were a perfect match in status and wealth. A classic case of the talented man and the beautiful woman, widely regarded by the elite as the golden couple. 3 years ago, they were on the verge of marriage, until a premarital check revealed Lu Jingming was infertile. For a top-tier powerhouse dynasty like the Su family, producing an heir is the absolute highest priority. Consequently, the Su family stood in fierce, unyielding opposition. But Su Qingyuan's love for Lu Jingming was obsessive. Determined to marry him, she defied them, in retaliation. The Su family began ruthlessly crushing the Lu family's business. Eventually, the Lu family buckled under the agonizing pressure. Lu Jingming finally severed ties with Su Qingyuan. Post-breakup, Su Qingyuan began a relentless streak of blind dates. Yet she harbored a cold disdain for every single candidate, until she crossed paths with me, the social circle's notorious ugly duckling. Suddenly, every piece of the twisted puzzle fell into place. Her marriage to me wasn't because I was special in any way, nor was it because she glimpsed some hidden inner beauty. It was simply because I was the most pathetic, most revolting option among every potential suitor available. The ultimate tool to bring shame upon the Su lineage, and the perfect weapon to provoke and coerce the Su elders into a state of total submission. She intentionally wed a hideous man, purely as a defiant protest against her own family, forcing them to relent and allow Lu Jingming into the fold. Staring at the text on my screen, I burst into sudden, hollow laughter. The laughter dissolved into a stream of bitter tears. Agony tightened around me like a colossal, suffocating net, coiling itself around my soul with every passing second, tightening its lethal grip, until I could barely draw a single breath of air. Mother warned that beauty leads to deception. Yet even in my ugliness, I was played like a fool. Except this betrayal was far more absolute, far more pathetic, and infinitely more tragic. The 3 years of bliss I thought I possessed were nothing but a meticulously choreographed performance. I was merely a pawn Su Qingyuan used against her family, in her high-stakes game of defiance, a sacrificial lamb to prove her undying devotion to Lu Jingming. I believed I had finally found my light, unaware that the light was merely a reflection from a mirror meant to illuminate someone else. I sat in the oppressive silence of my room for an eternity. Then I grabbed my phone and dialed Su's mother. My voice was eerily, terrifyingly calm. "I'm divorcing Su Qingyuan." Silence hung heavy on the other end for several seconds. "What did you just say, so?" The woman's voice spiked in sheer, utter disbelief, as if she couldn't fathom the words she just heard. "Shen Yanci, a man with your face actually dares to initiate a divorce. Do you have any idea how many elite men are begging for a chance to marry Qingyuan? My appearance is none of your concern. This divorce is happening. If the Su family refuses to cooperate, I will hire the best lawyers and take this to the courts. When things turn ugly, no one wins. On the other end, Mother Su exploded in a fit of hysterical rage. Yet beneath the fury, I detected a faint trace of hidden relief and desperate impatience. It made perfect sense. Mother Su had long despised having a hideous son-in-law like me, and was practically dying for me to vanish into thin air, to vacate the spot for some handsome high society heir. In her elitist mind, Lu Jingming was unworthy of Su Qingyuan, but I was an even bigger stain on the family name. Finally, she sealed the deal with a cold finality. I'll handle the divorce arrangements myself. Just wait a few more days. The moment I hung up the phone, I drew a long shaky breath into my lungs. I checked myself out of the hospital immediately and headed home. The first thing I did upon arrival was purge my life. I gathered every single gift Su Qingyuan had given me over the years, dragging them all out into the open, and hurled them ruthlessly into the trash. It was as if I were discarding 3 years of my own pathetic stupidity. A few days later, Su Qingyuan finally returned. The burns on her back hadn't fully healed yet, making her movement slightly stiff and labored. Yet she remained impeccably dressed in her designer power suit, her silhouette as graceful as ever, her face a mask of elegant beauty. "Why are you just sitting here in the dark?" she asked, her voice carrying its usual manufactured warmth. "The staff said you haven't eaten a single bite for days." I lifted my gaze to look at her. In the past, every time my eyes met hers, my pulse would skyrocket, and my face would burn with a shy heat. But now looking at her only filled me with a hollow, icy detachment. Su Qingyuan didn't seem to notice the shift in my gaze, or perhaps she had never truly cared to look into my eyes at all. She glanced at the calendar hanging on the wall, naturally reaching out to grasp my hand in hers. "Are you pouting because I wasn't here to keep you company? Today is your birthday after all. I've booked the most extravagant hotel in the city center to host a grand banquet just for you. It's still early, so let's go pick out a new suit for you first, shall we?" If this were before hearing that she remembered my birthday and had gone to such lengths to plan a celebration, I would have been so overwhelmed with joy I wouldn't know what to do. But now my heart was nothing but a desolate frozen wasteland. Even so, I didn't expose the lie. "Fine," I whispered softly. Su Qingyuan drove me to an ultra-high-end boutique tailor. The moment we entered, her phone buzzed. "Go ahead and browse. I need to take this call." She stepped aside without waiting for an answer. I didn't mind the neglect, and headed upstairs to select a suit. My eyes landed on a dark, subtle pinstripe piece, minimalist and sophisticated. "Please wrap this one up for me," I instructed the sales associate. "I'll be taking that suit." A clear melodic male voice suddenly cut in from behind. I turned to face the speaker, and felt my blood turn to ice in my veins. Lu Jingming, the same face from the photos leaning against Su Qingyuan, radiating that same arrogant, carefree energy, was now standing vividly before my eyes. He was clad in a pristine white designer suit, his hair styled to perfection, his eyes sparkling with an innate sense of superiority. With a mocking smirk, he stared intently at the dark pinstripe suit in my hand. "My apologies," Lu Jingming said, stepping closer. His voice was soft, but his tone was anything but polite. "I've also taken a liking to this specific suit, even though you technically arrived first." He paused, scanning me up and down with disdain, lingering on my heavy bangs and thick black frames, before his lips curled into a perfectly calculated arc. "I honestly think it would suit me much better. Why don't you do the right thing and hand it over?" I gripped the fabric tighter. "No," I turned back to the clerk. "I'm ready to pay." The smile on Lu Jingming's face faltered slightly. He reached out, grabbing the other end of the garment. "I'm truly obsessed with this piece, sir. Besides, with your unique looks, it won't matter what you wear. Why not be a gentleman and just give it up for me?" We stood locked in a tense standoff, the air thick with the silent scent of gunpowder. "What's going on here?" Su Qingyuan's cold, authoritative voice echoed from the stairs. She reached the floor and took in the scene, a faint, almost imperceptible frown crossing her brow. The moment Lu Jingming saw her, his eyes ignited with instant recognition, yet his fingers remained tightly clamped onto the fabric. "Qingyuan, what a surprise to see you here." His eyes darted suspiciously between Su Qingyuan and me, before shifting into an expression of feigned realization. "Ah, so this must be your legendary husband. If I had known he was Mr. Shen, I wouldn't have even bothered to compete. I'll let Mr. Shen have the suit then." He released his grip with a casual shrug, as if his previous stubbornness was merely a playful joke. But in the very next heartbeat, Su Qingyuan reached out her hand, snatched the suit right out of my grasp, and offered it directly to Lu Jingming. "There's no need to yield," she said, looking at him. Her voice was infinitely softer than it had been with me. "This style suits you. Go try it on." A flicker of smug triumph flashed in Lu Jingming's eyes. He took the suit and shot me a mocking grin, before disappearing into the changing room. My hand remained frozen in midair, the lingering texture of the stolen fabric still ghosting on my skin. I slowly retracted my hand and clenched it into a fist, my nails digging deep into the flesh of my palm. That sharp sting was nothing compared to the agony in my chest. A dull, agonizing ache like a serrated blade carving through bone. Only then did Su Qingyuan turn to face me. Her manner as casual as if she'd settled a trivial chore. Yanci, that was Lu Jingming, an old acquaintance of mine. He's a bit blunt and straightforward. But he didn't mean any harm. It's just a single suit. We'll find you something else. I lifted my head, staring at her through my thick, distorted lenses. Why don't you just tell the truth for once? You claimed it suits him better. Because you think this face of mine is unworthy of that suit. And unworthy of anything truly precious, isn't it? Su Qingyuan was visibly taken aback. She clearly hadn't expected me to fire back, let alone have the guts to ruthlessly shatter the thin veil of polite pretense we had maintained. That's not what I meant at all. She quickly composed her expression, her voice tinged with a hint of weary frustration. If I thought you were unworthy, why would I have ever married you in the first place? Why marry me? This question felt like a blade laced with lethal poison, plunging deep into the center of my chest. The agony was so intense, it made my vision turn black. Yes, exactly why. Because I was just the right amount of hideous. I was the most convenient instrument imaginable, the perfect pawn to infuriate the Su family, and coerce them into total submission. From childhood to this very moment, because I chose to mask my true face, I've endured endless mockery and the hushed whispers of peers, the vitriol of blind dates, and my father's heavy-sized pains that felt like needles, until I finally became numb to the sting. But Su Qingyuan was supposed to be different. For 3 years, her gentle words of comfort, her casual acts of protection, and that life-risking devotion during the crash acted like warm water slowly thawing my frozen heart, allowing me to develop a forbidden delusion of dependency, only for her to personally use the most indifferent, most nonchalant manner possible to utterly shatter this artificial warmth. This betrayal cut deeper than any direct malice ever could. I fought to suppress the sob catching in my throat and the surging waves of raw agony. I remained silent, turning away to face another row of clothing racks. I blindly grabbed a plain, unremarkable black suit. At that moment, the curtain of the fitting room slid open, and Lu Jingming stepped out into the light. The dark pinstripe suit perfectly traced his silhouette, accentuating his broad shoulders and narrow waist, making his legs appear exceptionally long and straight. Mr. Lu, this looks absolutely stunning on you. The staff showered him with breathless praise. It's as if it were custom-tailored just for you. Su Qingyuan's gaze was also locked onto Lu Jingming. Her eyes were deep and unreadable, clearly reflecting Lu Jingming's triumphant figure within those usually cold, clear depths. I saw a glimpse of the very thing I had been searching for, a profound love she had never once shown to me, though it was merely a fleeting shadow. I caught it clearly. It felt as if an invisible hand was crushing my heart, a pain so sharp I could barely draw a breath. Qingyuan, do I look good? Lu Jingming asked with a beaming, radiant smile, while his eyes swept over me with casual disdain. Yes, it's perfect, Su Qingyuan affirmed, her tone absolute. Lu Jingming's smile grew even more radiant. He sauntered over to Su Qingyuan's side, wearing a natural, effortless grin. Right, I heard tonight is Mr. Shen's birthday banquet. Held at the Grand Hyatt, isn't it? It is. Su Qingyuan nodded. I actually happen to be free tonight. Lu Jingming shifted his gaze toward me, his smile perfectly poised. Mr. Shen, you wouldn't mind if I joined to celebrate your birth, would you? Before I could even open my mouth, Su Qingyuan interjected, of course he doesn't mind. You are more than welcome to come. The Grand Hyatt's rooftop ballroom was a sea of glittering lights. The birthday gala Su Qingyuan arranged for me was massive, inviting nearly half of the city's high society elite. I stood there in that unremarkable drab suit, with my heavy bangs and thick glasses, concealing my features as they always had. Standing beside Su Qingyuan, I felt like a glaring, mismatched eyesore. I could feel the weight of countless stares from every direction, curious probing, and mostly unfiltered disdain paired with muffled snickering. What was President Su thinking marrying someone like that? His looks are truly beyond description. She's so exceptional, what could she possibly see in him? Who knows? Maybe she just has unique, eccentric taste. The fragmented gossip buzzed like a swarm of mosquitoes, drilling relentlessly into my ears. I kept my spine perfectly rigid, my face a hollow mask, as if I were completely deaf to their venom. Shortly after the banquet commenced, Su Qingyuan presented me with a gift in front of everyone, a diamond necklace of staggering value. As the velvet box clicked open, the room erupted into a chorus of sharp gasps and envious murmurs. Thank you, I said as I took it, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. Lu Jingming made his grand entrance a bit later. He commanded the room's attention the second he appeared, clad in a high-end bespoke suit, with hairstyle to perfection and a dashing, handsome smile. He looked as if he were the true protagonist of the night. Apologies for the delay. Lu Jingming sauntered directly toward me, his tone dripping with feigned sincerity. I didn't have enough time to prepare a gift. I hope Mr. Shen doesn't take offense. Allow me to offer a humble performance. A song to wish you a very happy birthday. Having spoken, he turned his beaming smile toward Su Qingyuan. Qingyuan, I recall your piano skills are quite exceptional. How about we perform a four-hands duet together? Consider it a special tribute for Mr. Shen's birthday. What do you say? The guests began to cheer and egg them on. President Su, give us a show. Mr. Lu and President Su are truly a match made in heaven. Indeed, they look so perfectly compatible together. Su Qingyuan stared into Lu Jingming's expectant eyes, then cast a fleeting glance at my silent shadowed figure. After a moment of pensive hesitation, she stood up and walked toward the stage with him. A harmonious, synchronized melody filled the air. It was a specialized duet arrangement of Fleur Elise. The man was youthful and dashing. The woman was radiant and captivating, seated together like a masterpiece captured on canvas. The murmurs from the crowd intensified. This time, they didn't even bother to lower their voices. Now, this is what I call a perfect pair. If only President Su had married Mr. Lu back then. What a waste. That Shen Yanci is just taking up space. How can someone so hideous be matched with the most elite heiress in the city? It's a total travesty. Every single word felt like a needle dipped in poison, stabbing into my heart in a relentless, suffocating swarm. I stood there paralyzed, feeling the oxygen around me grow thinner and thinner. Those gazes and insults were a tide ready to drown me. I turned and retreated to the balcony. The night breeze was crisp and cool, dispersing the suffocating warmth of the ballroom, along with the cloying perfume and the deafening noise. I leaned heavily against the balcony railing, taking a jagged breath before exhaling slowly. Faint footsteps echoed behind me, followed by a warm body pressing close as slender arms wrapped around my waist from behind. My entire body stiffened in an instant. Why did you run off here all by yourself? Su Qingyuan's melodious voice vibrated against my back. Don't let those people's words get to your head. Just meaningless, boring gossip. I remained motionless, offering no response. Su Qingyuan, seemingly thinking I was throwing a tantrum, gently rested her chin against my spine. Her voice softened even further, tinged with a faint peacock-like vanity. Yanci, I told you that you're wonderful. Don't obsess over what others think. My love for you is all that matters. Love, I nearly scoffed out loud. What kind of love, using me as a tool to protest against her family? Or as a pathetic foil to highlight her undying devotion to Lu Jingming? Sensing that mere words weren't enough to appease me, and seeing my continued silence, she suddenly released her hold on my waist. She stepped in front of me, tilting her head slightly, and unexpectedly pressed her lips against my Adam's apple. A surge of warm, soft contact washed over me. My entire body jolted with shock, and my first instinct was to shove her away. At that precise moment, the glass balcony doors were violently swung open. Lu Jingming stood at the entrance, a lingering smile frozen on his face, upon seeing the two of us locked in an embrace. Specifically, Su Qingyuan's kiss on my neck. His expression instantly shattered. His face turned a ghostly shade of white, and his eyes rapidly filled with a shimmering layer of tears. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. His voice cracked with a choked sob. With that, he spun around and fled. His retreating figure looked utterly devastated. Su Qingyuan practically recoiled from me instantly. Her composure shifted dramatically, her eyes desperately chasing the direction where Lu Jingming vanished. Clear anxiety and a hint of internal conflict flickered within them. She quickly retracted her gaze to look at me, her tone returning to a practiced calm. Don't take what just happened to heart. My feelings for you are enough. I need to step out and make a quick call. She hurried out, frantically chasing after him. I stood there, rooted to the spot, staring at the empty doorway. I tried to twitch the corners of my mouth, but in the end, I couldn't even muster a self-deprecating smile. I couldn't endure another second of this birthday banquet. I turned my back and walked away. But as I reached the driveway of the hotel entrance, a shadow stepped out to block my path. It was Lu Jingming. His eyes were still bloodshot from crying, yet his expression was already perfectly recalibrated, radiating a look of condescending scrutiny. Leaving so soon, Mr. Shen, Lu Jingming asked. His tone was deceptively soft, but every word was laced with venom. The guest of honor leaving early, isn't that a bit rude? Or is seeing Qingyuan chase after me starting to make you feel a little insecure? I had zero interest in his petty games. I tried to sidestep him and keep moving. Don't run away now, he said, reaching out to bar my way. Let's have a talk about Qingyuan, and about this pathetic, laughable marriage of yours. I think it's time you learned the truth. Get out of my way, I snapped, my voice freezing over. What, feeling guilty already? Knowing deep down you're occupying a spot that isn't yours. Lu Jingming was relentless, refusing to back down. He even lunged forward, grabbing me firmly by the wrist. Let me tell you, Qingyuan never actually let go. I shoved him with all my might. We began to struggle violently at the edge of the driveway. Suddenly, Lu Jingming's foot seemed to slip. He let out a sharp, piercing shriek, his entire body toppling backward. In a panic, he death-gripped my arm, dragging me down. I lost my balance, along with him pulled into his fall. The screeching of brakes and a sickening thud echoed through the air almost simultaneously. In the ensuing chaos, I felt nothing but a massive crushing force hit me. The world began to spin in a violent blur. Searing white-hot pain radiated from my forehead and cheek. A warm liquid instantly flooded my eyes, blurring my vision. Lu Jingming's screams were ringing in my ears. Agony and dizziness swallowed me whole, in the haze. I sensed a crowd beginning to swarm around us. The sound of frantic muffled voices, the wail of an approaching ambulance. In my fading consciousness, I thought I glimpsed the silhouette of Su Qingyuan rushing toward the scene, on that face that was always so cold and composed. For the very first time, I saw an expression of pure, unadulterated panic. Then I heard fragments of a disjointed conversation, as if drifting in from a vast, unreachable distance. President Su, both victims have sustained critical injuries. They require immediate emergency surgery. However, there is only one operating theater available. Mr. Shen's facial trauma is extensive. The lacerations are dangerously deep. Without immediate intervention, he will be permanently disfigured. Mr. Liu has sustained a severe hand injury. Delaying treatment could end his career as a pianist. Then I heard Su Qingyuan's cold, decisive command. Save Lu Jingming first. His hands, he needs them to play. But what about Mr. Shen? Don't worry about him, she snapped. To him. Appearance is completely irrelevant. Irrelevant. Those 3 words felt like a white-hot blade, stabbing straight through my remaining hope. Of course, because I was already perceived as hideous. My face simply didn't matter. The world faded into a pitch-black void, and I finally succumbed to the darkness. When I regained consciousness, I was alone in a hospital room. There wasn't a single soul by my side. I reached up to touch my face, finding it encased in thick, restrictive layers of gauze. The door creaked open, and Lu Jingming strutted in, flanked by his clique of friends. His hand was similarly wrapped in bandages, but his face was lit up with a triumphant smirk. Shen Yanci, he drawled, approaching my bedside. He looked me up and down. I heard your injuries were quite gruesome. That your face was practically shredded? I genuinely thought you'd be a monster for life this time. I suppose the Su family surgeons are more skilled than I thought, actually managing to patch you up, but even if you're fixed, it won't mask the innate ugliness you were born with. This thick, pathetic gauze, it actually suits your bangs and glasses perfectly. Equally eyesore level. The men and women behind him erupted into a chorus of snide laughter. I closed my eyes, refusing to grant them even a sliver of my attention. Get out, before Lu Jingming could retort. A girl beside him in a pink designer outfit, with meticulously permed hair, instantly lost her temper. What's with that attitude? Jingming was kind enough to visit you, and you have the audacity to tell him to get out. Being hideous is one thing, but having such trashy manners on top of it, you truly are a low-class embarrassment. I snapped my eyes open. I swept a frigid, piercing gaze over the girl, before shifting my focus directly to Lu Jingming. Get out of here and take your dogs with you. You aren't welcome in this room. Who are you calling a dog? Tang Tang's face flushed crimson with sheer rage. She lunged forward, ready to settle this with force, raising her hand to deliver a sharp slap to my face, with the injuries on my head. My movements were stiff and sluggish, just as her palm was about to make contact. Oh, settle down, Tang Tang. Getting physical with a patient is so tasteless. A woman draped in a seductive wine red evening gown stepped in to restrain her. She appeared to be in her late 20s, possessing a shallow, flighty gaze, scanning my broken form on the hospital bed, with a malicious, predatory smirk playing on her lips. Mr. Shen, isn't it? You certainly have quite the stubborn streak. However, I have a very specific method for breaking people who refuse to submit. She stepped closer, invading my personal space, her gaze sticky, greasy, and completely unrestrained. I've seen plenty of men like you unattractive, yet overcompensating with a big attitude, pretending to be so dignified and upright, when your head is likely filled with filthy desires. As she spoke, she actually reached out to rip away my blanket. Get the hell away from me, I roared, enduring the searing pain as I tried to dodge. But my reflexes were a second to with the help of several others in the group. The woman pinned my shoulders down firmly, while her other hand violently tore open my hospital gown. The collar fell away, exposing my pale, sickly skin and blood-stained bandages. She stared at me intensely, her eyes a mix of perverse excitement and pure disgust. The body isn't half bad, actually. We can ignore the face. As long as you perform well in bed, who cares? Let me go help. I struggled with every ounce of my remaining strength. Humiliation and terror made my entire body tremble. But Lu Jingming's crew just watched, some with cold sneers, others with folded arms enjoying the entertainment. The girl in the pink dress even pulled out her phone to record. Despair and white-hot fury instantly obliterated my sanity. My eyes caught the glint of a heavy glass vase on the nightstand. I snatched up the weighted crystal, aimed directly at the skull of the woman pinning me down, and brought it crashing down with everything I had. A sickening thud exploded alongside her agonized shriek and the sound of shattering glass. In that chaotic instant, the ward door swung open. A nurse carrying a dressing tray stepped inside, freezing at the sight of the absolute carnage. The woman drenched in blood and glass shards, and me pale-faced and disheveled on the bed with my gown torn. The tray nearly slipped from the nurse's trembling hands. My God, someone help! I shook yourself. Security, get security and call the police. Call the police immediately. Inside the cold walls of the police station, I was separated from Lu Jingming's group for interrogation. Lu Jingming's side told a perfectly synchronized story, accusing me of unprovoked intentional assault. I maintained that it was a desperate act of self-defense, but my words fell on deaf ears. After all, who would believe a hideous freak could be sexually harassed? Before long, Su Qingyuan arrived with a fleet of lawyers. The bureau chief greeted her personally. President Su, both parties are giving conflicting statements. Procedurally, we must reach a definitive resolution. However, since these are all people known to you, Su Qingyuan's gaze landed on me first. Her eyes flickered over my torn, disheveled collar and the bandages on my face, pausing for a fleeting second. Her brow twitched almost imperceptibly before she looked away, focusing instead on Lu Jingming, who sat quietly to the side. Lu Jingming met her gaze and gave a subtle, fragile headshake, his eyes brimming with helpless, victimized innocence. Su Qingyuan remained silent for several agonizing seconds. The interrogation room was terrifyingly quiet. Every passing moment felt like a slow torture. Finally, she spoke, her voice low, steady, and utterly drained of all emotion. Lin Yu might have been a bit reckless, but sexual harassment, Yanci, aren't you? Misunderstanding things, Lin Yue isn't exactly hurting for male attention. She turned her attention back to the bureau chief, her tone detached yet heavy with authority. Lin Yue is badly hurt. Get her to the hospital for a full examination first. As for Yanci, he's clearly emotionally unstable and needs time to calm down. Since the police were called, process this as a public disturbance. Detain him for a few days so he can reflect. My eyes snapped open in sheer shock. I stared at her, utterly paralyzed by disbelief. Was it because Lin Yue didn't lack men? Or because I was so hideous that harassment was deemed impossible? My heart felt as if it were being ripped out and trampled. Compared to the raw lacerations on my face, this betrayal was 1,000 times more agonizing. Understood, President Su. The officer signaled his men. Escort the young miss and Mr. Liu out of here. He then turned to me with cold bureaucratic indifference. Mr. Shen, on suspicion of intentional assault and public disorder, you are hereby placed under legal detention. In an instant, Lu Jingming and Lin Yue were politely ushered out of the station. As they passed by my side, Lin Yue clutched her head, glaring at me with murderous intent. Lu Jingming paused for a fleeting second. He tilted his head toward me, his lips curling into a smug, triumphant smirk. He whispered, "Isn't it obvious who Qingyuan believes now?" With that, he sauntered away. I was dragged into the darkness of a detention cell. I knew Lu Jingming wouldn't let this opportunity slip away. The next 7 days were a literal living hell for me. The freezing damp cell, the stench of rotten inedible food, cellmates who went out of their way to harass me, being doused with ice-cold water in the middle of the night, my unhealed wounds being treated with brutal negligence. The torment was relentless and systematic. I gritted my teeth and endured every second. No tears, no begging, no screaming. My gaze grew hollower with each passing day. My heart grew colder with every beat. 7 days later, I was finally released. Su Qingyuan was waiting for me right at the gate. She leaned casually against her car. A slim lady's cigarette balanced between her fingers. The swirling gray smoke blurred her familiar icy features. Seeing me emerge, she stubbed out the cigarette and walked over. "You're out. Get in the car." I didn't budge. I looked her straight in the eye, my voice a jagged rasp. "Why?" Su Qingyuan didn't seem to expect that question. She paused. "Why what? Why did you let them go? Why did you lock me away?" My voice was barely a whisper, yet it trembled with suppressed rage. "Because you think I'm so hideous. You think Lu Jingming's friends would never touch me. So you just decided that I was the liar, that I was the one who initiated the assault." Su Qingyuan stared at my bloodshot eyes, and the profound despair etched into my gaze. A flicker of faint discomfort crossed her heart, but she quickly brushed it aside, her tone softening. With a patronizing, patient logic, "Yanci, Lin Yu might be a wild party girl, but the odds of her harassing you are non-existent. The situation was chaotic. You were likely just terrified and misunderstood her. Locking you up for a few days was a lesson, a way to let the scandal die down. It's not like I abandoned you. I pulled some strings inside. You weren't supposed to suffer any grievances." Pulled some strings? A hollow laugh nearly escaped my throat, while my heart bled out in silence. Did it ever even cross her mind that her precious Lu Jingming also pulled strings to ensure my life inside was a living nightmare? I bit my lip until the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. Over the next few days, as if fearing her little tool might act out, I walked out onto the deck alone to catch the breeze. Suddenly, a set of familiar footsteps echoed behind me. Lu Jingming had returned. "Shen Yanci, are you enjoying all these trinkets Qingyuan bought you?" Lu Jingming sauntered over to my side, his voice clear and melodic, while his eyes were laced with venom. "No matter how expensive these gifts are, they won't change the fact that you're just a pawn. She's using you to blackmail her parents. Now that she's almost won, how much longer do you think you'll last? When we finally have our wedding, I'll be sure to send you an invitation. I refused to listen to a word more, turning my back to leave him behind. But Lu Jingming lunged out and seized my wrist, leaving so soon. Does the truth hurt? I told you before. The person Qing Yuan has always loved is me. You're nothing but a let go. I shoved him with all my might. The two of us grappled at the railing of the ship's stern. The cruise ship swayed slightly, and Lu Jingming's foot suddenly slipped. He let out a sharp cry, his body toppling backward. But he once again lunged out and death gripped me. We both lost our balance simultaneously, tumbling over the railing and plummeting straight into the pitch-black freezing depths. The bone-chilling seawater instantly flooded my nose and mouth. The massive impact and the sub-zero cold left me gasping. I didn't know how to swim, as I struggled in vain. Salt water burned its way down my throat. In a daze, I saw a silhouette leap into the ocean. Moving with powerful athletic strokes, it was Su Qing Yuan. Without a single moment of hesitation, she swam straight toward the flailing Lu Jingming. She grabbed him from behind and hauled him toward a lifeboat, never once glancing back at me. The icy ocean wasn't even 1/10 as cold as my frozen heart. Just as my consciousness began to drift away, a passing small boat spotted my sinking figure. The crew scrambled to haul me out of the water. I collapsed onto the deck, coughing violently, choking up seawater as my drenched body trembled uncontrollably from the cold. Su Qing Yuan had already delivered Lu Jingming to safety, wrapping him in a blanket and whispering concerns. Only then did she seem to remember something. She looked up and her eyes finally landed on me. It started as a mere casual glance, but in the very next second her expression froze. "Your face," she murmured, her brows knitting together in confusion. My heart skipped a beat. Instinctively I looked down and touched my face. The heavy disguising makeup I always wore had been soaked by the seawater and rubbed during the struggle, peeling away in large patches to reveal the true skin hidden beneath. My drenched bangs were plastered to my forehead, and my thick black-rimmed glasses were gone. "Qing Yuan?" "My head hurts. I'm so cold." Right then, Lu Jingming's weak voice called out as he leaned heavily into Su Qing Yuan's embrace, breaking her searching gaze away from me. Su Qing Yuan instantly retracted her eyes, endured a bit longer. "I'm taking you to a doctor right now." She didn't glance back at me even once, guiding Lu Jingming toward the cabin in a protective embrace. I stared at her retreating back, clutching my sodden clothes, my fingertips icy, yet in the end I remained silent. With the help of my rescuers, I climbed back onto the cruise ship, and found a vacant room to pull myself together. I peered into the mirror at the face hidden beneath that hideous mask. A visage so breathtakingly handsome it felt surreal. This was the legacy my mother left me, the secret I had kept guarded for over a decade. As I changed and prepared to disembark, my phone vibrated. It was Sue's mother, Shen Yanci. Her voice crackled through the speaker, laced with an unfiltered sense of relief and triumph. "The divorce papers are finalized. As of now, you have no connection to Qing Yuan or the Su family. We will provide ample compensation to your father. Just don't show your face around here ever again." I gripped the phone, standing alone on the pier. The sea breeze whipped through my damp hair, revealing my smooth, unblemished forehead and my deep, piercing eyes, no longer obscured by those pathetic glasses. It was finally over. I hailed a cab, bypassing home to head straight for the suburban cemetery. The woman in the photograph was elegant and gentle, though her eyes held a sorrow that never quite faded. "Mom," I whispered softly, my voice dissolving into the wind, "you were right. Being too beautiful might lead to being deceived. But playing the fool made me an even bigger target. Hiding myself didn't bring the safety you promised. It only made my tormentors more bold and ruthless. So from this day forward, I'm done hiding. Even if the road ahead is treacherous, I want to face it as my true self." I bowed 3 times in silent respect, then turned and walked away. Returning to the villa, I moved like a ghost, disturbing no one, heading straight for the master bedroom. I did 3 things. First, I packed every single one of my belongings. Second, I scrubbed away every last trace of that fake persona. As the steam cleared from the bathroom mirror, a face slowly emerged from the mist, breathtakingly handsome and unrecognizable. Third, I pulled out my phone and booked the earliest flight out of the city. I caught a cab to the airport and checked in. Security and the waiting lounge followed. I kept my head slightly bowed during boarding, but that breathtakingly handsome face still drew a storm of stunned gasps and a flurry of curious secret snapshots. I remained completely indifferent, or perhaps I just didn't care anymore as the plane roared into the sky, leaving the city that harbored all my agony and every bit of calculated deception, far, far behind in the clouds. What I didn't realize was that shortly after my plane departed, countless candid photos of me at the terminal exploded onto the local trending charts at a terrifying speed, spreading like a digital wildfire. Insane visuals spotted at the airport. Is this level of handsomeness even physically possible in real life? In 3 minutes, I need every single detail on this mysterious god. Compared to him, Lu Jingming, the supposed #1 hunk, is literally reduced to total trash. The photos were circulated frantically in an instant. The entire internet was hunting for this celestial man. Inevitably, my background was slowly unraveled, and eventually, an earth-shattering conclusion was dropped online. Wait, isn't this Shen Yanci, the Su family's ugly son-in-law? Public opinion underwent a violent 180-degree reversal. All curiosity, skepticism, and deep dives, the noise was deafening. Soon the media unearthed secrets from the distant past. My mother, once a legendary beauty who charmed the elite, had married down into the Shen family only to suffer. With a husband who cheated incessantly, she eventually withered away in a pit of depression. Memories surfaced of her clutching her young son's hand, desperately pleading with him to hide his face, connecting that tragedy to my unshakable ugly persona maintained for over a decade. A viral report titled "The Tragic Beauty and Her Fallen Star," detailing a son hiding his peerless face to survive, was published and went viral instantly. The details were hauntingly thorough. The emotional weight was staggering, and it triggered a massive wave of public sympathy. As the scandal reached its absolute fever pitch, Su Qingyuan was in her top-floor executive boardroom, presiding over a high-stakes multinational merger meeting. The atmosphere was heavy and stifling. Her fingers gripped a fountain pen while listening to reports, exuding her trademark aura of absolute calm and control. Suddenly, her assistant burst in, visibly panicked, not even bothering to knock on the door. A tablet was practically slammed onto the desk before her. "President Su, you need to see this. Mr. Shen, Su Qingyuan's brows knitted together in displeasure. She cast a sharp glance at the screen, and her gaze instantly froze. Displayed on the monitor was that high-definition candid photo from the airport. No suffocatingly heavy bangs, no clunky hideous glasses, no dull sallow complexion. Instead, skin as white and flawless as porcelain, delicate and refined like the finest ancient jade, features carved to perfection as if from a painting, deep soulful eyes that tilted slightly downward, softening their natural sharp upward curve, yet adding a fragile, cold, and ethereal beauty to his bridge. His lips were a natural soft shade of pink. The contours were absolutely flawless. It was clearly me, yet it looked nothing like the me she knew. This was the husband she had been married to for 3 years. The man she had never once truly looked at. Su Qingyuan's pupils contracted violently. She stared obsessively at the photo, her fingers swiping rapidly, reading the stories netizens had unearthed about my mother, and the theories regarding why I had spent over a decade masquerading as someone hideous. It felt as if an invisible hand had ruthlessly crushed her heart, followed by a slow, agonizing throb of cold realization. The boardroom fell into a deathly silence. Executives held their breath, watching their leader. The young mogul, usually so unreadable and stoic, now wore a rare, haunting expression, one of complete and utter shock. Meeting adjourned, Su Qingyuan snapped, bolting upright. The chair scraped violently against the polished floor. Emitting a sharp screeching sound, she snatched up the tablet, without sparing a single glance for anyone else, and stormed out of the conference room. Back in her penthouse office, she threw the deadbolt on the door, standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows. With the city's glittering skyline at her back, she obsessively flipped through every single photo, every different angle, in shifting lighting, even in the blurry candids of his profile or his back. He was without exception breathtakingly handsome. This wasn't an effect achieved by makeup or plastic surgery. It was an innate perfection, a flawless fusion of bone structure and radiant skin, a strike of beauty that was utterly overwhelming. Her heart began to pound faster, growing increasingly erratic, a foreign scalding sensation, a cocktail of shock, belated terror, and an indescribable dull ache, violently slammed against the walls of her chest. She had never experienced a sensation like this, not even years ago when Lu Jingming sobbed through their breakup. Back then, she felt nothing but rage, indignation, and the suffocating frustration of being controlled. It was nothing like this moment. This feeling, as if something absolutely vital was slipping through her fingers at terminal velocity. No matter how desperately she reached out to grab it, she only caught the void, a cold, hollow panic. There was a sharp knock at the office door. Before she could even respond, Xiao Wangxin pushed her way inside. She was one of the few people Su Qingyuan called a friend. Wealthy, flamboyant, and completely unrestrained. The world outside is in a total uproar, and yet you have the heart to sit here. And Xiao Wangxin's words died in her throat. Her gaze locked onto Su Qingyuan's face. Leaving her stunned, Su Qingyuan stood backlit, her expression seemingly a mask of indifference. But Xiao Wangxin had known her for far too many years. She instantly saw the surging, suppressed storm brewing behind those eyes. "What is with that look on your face?" Xiao Wangxin approached, glancing down at the tablet screen in her hands. "To see that divine celestial face of mine." She let out a speechless tisk. "I say, seeing you like this, you haven't actually fallen for him, have you?" Su Qingyuan's body stiffened almost imperceptibly. Fallen for him. For the man she once deemed a mere convenience. A tool to marry just to spite her family. How could that be possible? Yet the sharp, distinct throb in the depths of her heart, and the countless details she had ignored over 3 years, now came surging back with a frantic vengeance, silently screaming a rebuttal to her denial. What are you doing here? Su Qingyuan averted her gaze, her tone returning to its icy hardened state. I almost forgot the actual point. Xiao Wangxin dropped her playful smirk, though her eyes remained sharp and inquisitive. I saw the trending topics and came to check on you. I didn't expect it to actually be my brother-in-law. But hey, since you shouldn't let good things go to waste, could you introduce him to me? I'd love to get to know him. What nonsense are you talking about? He is my husband. Su Qingyuan snapped, cutting her off. Her voice held a chilling edge that even she didn't realize was there. Xiao Wangxin froze in surprise, her expression turning peculiar. Husband Qingyuan, don't you know? Know what? Xiao Wangxin tapped her phone a few times and thrust it in front of her face. The official website of your Su group. Half an hour ago, they released a formal statement. It claims that you and Mr. Shen Yanci have amicably dissolved your marriage. Su Qingyuan snatched the phone away. The screen displayed the stark black and white text, with the Su group's official seal glaring back at her. It was posted by the group's public relations department, but only 2 people had the authority to bypass her like this. Her own parents. That's impossible. Su Qingyuan stared at those few short lines, blood rushing to her head in a dizzying surge. Before draining away, leaving her hands and feet ice cold, she immediately grabbed the office intercom and dialed the legal director, her voice sharp enough to draw blood. Investigate the divorce settlement between me and Shen Yanci right now. Who processed it? Who signed it? And why was I never informed? After slamming down the phone, her fingers trembled uncontrollably. She dialed another number, her mother's. The call was answered almost instantly. Who gave you permission to release that statement? Su Qingyuan's voice was terrifyingly low, each word squeezed out through gritted teeth. I haven't signed anything. How can there be a divorce? Su's mother paused on the other end for a beat, then raised her voice as if to mask the lack of a signature. But Shen Yanci sought me out himself. His resolve to divorce was unwavering. He signed the papers and I handled the rest. Didn't he tell you? Didn't he give you a single heads up? He reached out right after leaving the hospital, stating that this marriage was officially over. He even threatened that if the Su family didn't comply, he'd hire a lawyer and turn it into a public scandal. Since he's so ungrateful and stubborn, why would our family keep that eyesore around any longer? Hospital Su Qingyuan latched onto the word instantly. What hospital visit are you talking about? The time you were hospitalized for saving Lu Jingming. Her mother's words came fast. Wasn't he injured too? He discharged himself shortly after, and called me immediately to demand a divorce. I suppose he finally realized he's a nobody, and wisely chose to beat it, honestly, Qingyuan. Good riddance to that kind of man. I'll find you a much more suitable elite bachelor. Su Qingyuan didn't listen to another word. She slammed the phone down. The time he was hospitalized. She suddenly recalled her mother's visit to her room that day, and the bitter argument they had. Her mother's voice had been sharp and piercing, easily audible even through the thick door panels, and my room had been right next door. A horrific realization, like a cold venomous viper, slithered deep into her heart. She immediately dialed another number, calling the hospital director with her voice tight. Retrieved the security footage outside my room. During my last stay, now, the few minutes of waiting felt like an agonizing century. A notification chimed the email had arrived. Su Qingyuan clicked it open, playing the attached surveillance footage. Her mother entered the patient room. Shortly after, the door clicked shut. I emerged from the adjacent room, my face ghastly pale, with thick gauze still wrapped around my forehead. My steps were weak and unsteady. As I approached her hospital door, seemingly about to push it open, but my hand froze on the handle. Then I stood there, rooted to the spot and motionless. The video was silent, but she could clearly read her mother's agitated lip movements, and her own profile as she delivered those cold, detached responses. She saw me leaning heavily against the wall for support, my frame trembling almost imperceptibly as I faltered. She watched me slowly raise my head, staring blankly toward her hospital room door. In those eyes that usually stayed downcast and submissive, shock and utter bewilderment were vividly etched. And then, a bone-chilling despair and icy numbness began to spread. Finally, I retreated step by agonizing step back into my own room, my silhouette looking fragile and hollow, like a withered leaf on the verge of shattering. Su Qingyuan stared at the screen, her eyes fixed, her fingertips turning cold as ice. Her blood seemed to freeze in her veins. So, I had heard everything. I knew the cruel intentions behind our marriage. I knew every act of kindness was just a calculated move. I knew her heart was anchored to another man. I knew I was nothing more than a gambling chip, a mere display of defiance, a tool used to force her family into submission. Su Qingyuan let out a low, hollow laugh, the sound hoarse and utterly broken. She raised her hand to shield her eyes, but through the gaps in her fingers, warm tears surged out, completely catching her off guard. Xiao Wangxin stood silently to the side, watching her friend who had never been this unraveled, searching for something to say to comfort her. In the end, she simply let out a heavy sigh, and quietly exited the room, gently pulling the door shut behind her. Outside, the daylight gradually bled into dusk. Su Qingyuan sat enveloped in the dim shadows, resembling a lifeless hollow statue. An eternity seemed to pass, before she finally lowered her hand, her eyes bloodshot and raw, but the confusion and agony within them had been replaced by a fierce, almost obsessive resolve. She grabbed her phone and dialed her assistant, her voice raspy, yet leaving no room for argument. Find him. Mobilize every connection we have. I want you to move with the absolute maximum speed to locate Shen Yanci. I need to know exactly where he is. Right now, start the search immediately. But from the very beginning, the search hit a wall. Su Qingyuan had deployed her entire network of influence. The intel they gathered revealed that I had used my ID to purchase a one-way ticket to a renowned tourist hub in the southwest. She immediately flew out to find me, but the trail went cold the moment she landed. I hadn't used my ID to check into any hotels, guest houses, or even local inns. I hadn't rented a single vehicle. It was as if I'd prepared a mountain of cash in advance, and then like a single drop of water, I silently evaporated into the vast sea of people, complex terrain, and dense ancient towns that the region is famous for. Su Qingyuan's elite team scoured nearly every corner of the city and its surrounding hideouts, but they turned up absolutely nothing. As the days bled into weeks, Su Qingyuan's legendary composure began to show jagged visible cracks. Insomnia took hold of her. She spent entire nights chain-smoking, leaving her office and home reeking of heavy tobacco. During board meetings, she would suddenly drift off, staring blankly into the empty void. When her assistant reported on business, she would interrupt with a non sequitur. Tell me, where could he have gone all by himself? The assistant bowed their head, not daring to answer. Xiao Wangxin came to check on her, and seeing her haggard, exhausted state, she sighed. You've truly fallen for him, haven't you? Su Qingyuan didn't even try to deny it. She just took a harsh, deep drag of her cigarette, the smoke blurring the bloodshot veins in her eyes. She finally realized that her feelings for Lu Jingming had only ever been a habitual possessiveness and a lingering obsession from her youth. When Lu Jingming left her, she felt indignant and furious, like a victim of her family and fate. But with my disappearance, what she felt was as if a piece of her heart had been brutally ripped out, a hollow agonizing torment, and a crushing absolute terror of losing me forever. The sensation was foreign, sharp, and overwhelming. It left him utterly paralyzed and lost. Lu Jingming, unable to reach him by phone, stormed the building. The receptionist dared not stop him. He surged into the executive office wing and cornered Su Qingyuan in the parking garage just as he was leaving. Qingyuan, Lu Jingming lunged forward, clutching his arm, his eyes rimmed with red and brimming with tears. Why are you avoiding me? Why won't you answer my calls? Is it because of Shen Yanci? Listen to me. It's all a facade. It's a trap he set just to get revenge on us. There is no way he actually looks like that. He must have gone under the knife for plastic surgery, or used some kind of dark sorcery. He's intentionally using this stunt to grab your attention and sabotage our relationship. Qingyuan, don't let his lies deceive you. Su Qingyuan stared back at him, observing his meticulously groomed feature and listening to the venomous stream of words, filled with malicious speculation and disparagement toward me. The image in his memory, the proud, carefree man, who he once felt the need to protect, was rapidly peeling away, revealing a core of unfamiliar, even revolting calculation and distortion. He slowly, deliberately pried Lu Jingming's clinging fingers off of his arm. Lu Jingming, he began, his voice like ice, devoid of any warmth or emotion. What he looks like, or whether it's real, is none of your concern. As for whether he is worthy of me, he paused for a heartbeat, his gaze falling heavily upon Lu Jingming's instantly ashen face. That is solely for me to decide. Lu Jingming's lips trembled violently. Qingyuan, there's more. Su Qingyuan cut him off, his tone growing even colder. What Lin Yue did to Shen Yanci in that detention center, and the favors you requested from the guards, while Shen Yanci was locked away, did you truly believe I wouldn't find out? Every last drop of color drained from Lu Jingming's face. His eyes widened in sheer terror. For the sake of our past, I won't pursue legal action this time. Su Qingyuan yanked the car door open, without sparing him a single backward glance. Do not test the limits of my patience again, and never dare show your face before me or him ever again. The car roared off, leaving only a trail of dust. Lu Jingming stood paralyzed, his blood running cold. A few days later, by a twist of fate, Su Qingyuan was browsing through a niche designer forum online when a set of anonymously posted sketches caught her eye. Su Qingyuan felt a flicker of hope in her chest, immediately ordering her team to trace the uploader's IP address. The location pointed to a southern water town famed for its ancient rivers, white walls, and black-tiled roofs. A hazy realization flashed through her mind. I had minored in design during my university years, and my mother's ancestral roots were in that very region. Ready the private jet for Nanjun, Su Qingyuan bolted upright, snatching her coat. President Su, the afternoon video conference with Europe, postpone it. She didn't hesitate for even a second. Nanjun wasn't a large town, but it was a labyrinth of crisscrossing waterways, with inns and guest houses tucked away in winding alleys. The streets were teeming with tourists. Su King Yuan held up the printed copy of my barefaced photo from the airport, asking every local she encountered, "Excuse me, have you seen this man?" "No, sorry. Never seen him. He looks a bit familiar, but I can't quite place him." 3 days passed, without a single lead. She felt like she was hunting for a needle in a haystack, trapped in an endless, frustrating maze. Her anxiety and sense of helplessness grew by the hour. That night, she stepped into a riverside lounge. The bar was bathed in a dim amber glow, where a live singer performed on stage with a guitar, crooning a soulful, melancholic old song. Su King Yuan took a seat in a secluded corner, ordering a stiff drink but barely touching it. Her gaze drifted hollowly toward the murmuring river outside and the flickering shadows of the lantern light. Suddenly, her vision locked onto a target. By the bar counter sat a man dressed in a moon-white mandarin collar shirt. His profile slammed into her field of vision. The man sat with his back partially turned, slightly long hair swept back with casual ease, a few stray locks grazing his ears, only serving to accentuate his razor-sharp jawline, and the clean, elegant curve of his nape. Under the dim lights, his skin glowed with a cold porcelain pallor. It was me. In that split second, Su Qing Yuan's heart felt as if it were struck by a massive sledgehammer, skipping a beat entirely, before erupting into a frantic, thundering rhythm. Blood rushed to her head as her ears began to ring. She practically stumbled to her feet, brushing past the surrounding shadows, and lunged toward the bar counter in a few strides, reaching out to seize the wrist of my hand holding a pen. My movements stiffened. I slowly raised my head, and upon seeing the person gripping me, a flicker of emotion shot through those deep, soulful eyes, like a small pebble tossed into a serene lake. The ripple vanished in an instant, leaving behind only a cold, unfathomable calm. "Miss," I spoke, my voice low yet piercingly cold. "You have the wrong person." I tried to wrench my hand away, but Su Qing Yuan gripped me even tighter, her fingertips trembling ever so slightly. Her gaze turned voracious, almost greedily tracing every detail of my face. Every inch of skin, every contour was foreign to her. Yet they tugged at her soul with a bizarre intensity, the manic joy of finding what was lost, coupled with something far deeper, an emotion she couldn't even put into words, collided violently within her chest. "No, I haven't." Her voice was incredibly hoarse, as if it had been scraped raw by sandpaper. "Yanci, it's me. I've finally found you. Come back with me. Let's talk. Let's really talk." I looked at Su Qing Yuan, the corner of my mouth twitching into a faint smirk. There was zero warmth in that expression, only a thick, heavy layer of mockery. Back, I repeated the word, as if savoring the taste of something utterly pathetic. "Back where exactly?" "Miss Su," I said, raising my other hand to ruthlessly pry her fingers off one by one. The Su Group's divorce statement was seen by everyone. The official papers stamped and finalized. Arrived in my hands just a few days ago. There is absolutely nothing left between us now, and certainly nothing left to discuss. That was all a misunderstanding. Su King Yuan took a desperate, frantic step forward, attempting to seize me once more, only for me to recoil and evade her touch. My mother released that statement without my consent. She had no idea that I never signed those papers. "Yanci, it doesn't count who released. The statement makes no difference to me." I stared directly at her, my gaze chillingly composed. "The reality is that we are divorced, legally, socially, and in the eyes of the entire world. I no longer have the slightest connection to you. Please let go. And please just leave. Stop intruding upon my life." With that, I turned my back to walk away. I know I was wrong. Su King Yuan's voice suddenly shattered the quiet of the room. The few patrons in the bar turned to stare at us. She ignored them, pinning her gaze on my retreating back, as the words she had rehearsed in her heart 1,000 times finally came pouring out. "Yanci, just give me one chance. Can we please start over from the beginning? I'll fix everything. Lu Jingming. My parents, everyone and everything that hurt you. I will deal with all of it. I swear I will never let it happen again." Su King Yuan. I stopped but didn't turn around, merely tilting my head slightly. My voice was soft, yet it cut through the air with lethal clarity. "By starting over, do you mean continuing to use me as a shield against your family, or acting as a tragic backdrop to prove your undying devotion to Lu Jingming?" Su King Yuan's face turned deathly pale, as if she had been struck with a brutal, direct punch. She stumbled backward, reeling from the blow, her mouth agape but unable to utter a single sound. "Your mother was actually right about one thing. When I was ugly, I was a stain on the Su family name. Nothing more than a tool that brought you shame. Now that I've revealed my face, have I suddenly become a new trophy for you to flaunt? A way to soothe your regret and guilty conscience?" Su King Yuan's lips trembled uncontrollably as silent tears began to track down her cheeks. "I've received your apology." I didn't spare her another look, my resolve hardened and cold. "But I don't need it, and I certainly don't forgive you. Stop following me." I left her with one final sentence, my voice like ice. "Otherwise, I'm calling the police." I pushed open the heavy wooden door of the bar, my presence quickly dissolving into the misty night and the sound of the river. I vanished into the dark. Su Qingyuan stood frozen in place, as if the very life had been drained out of her. A heavy silence fell over the bar, broken only by the singer's low melancholic hum. She suddenly lunged for the glass on the table, downing the amber liquid in one desperate gulp. The burning spirit scorched her throat, yet it couldn't numb the agonizing spread of the boundless icy panic within her soul. No, she couldn't just let go. She spun around and charged out of the bar, sprinting in the direction where I had disappeared. Su Qingyuan followed me from a calculated distance, watching as I entered a quaint riverside inn, tucked away with a small sign that read Jiwan. A warm amber glow seeped through the wooden shutters. She checked into a guest house directly across the river, where the window of her room faced a lit window on the second floor of Jiwan. She stood by that window staring at the light until the moment it finally flickered out, staying awake until the first light of dawn broke. She woke early the next morning, or rather, she hadn't slept at all. She watched as I stepped out into the early mist, dressed simply in a plain linen shirt and loose-fitting trousers, carrying a lightweight easel and a small woven rattan basket. I strolled along the cobblestone path to an old tree by the river. I set up my canvas, facing the murmuring stream and the distant stone bridge. As the black awning boats drifted by and I began to paint, sunlight filtered through the leafy canopy, dapping my skin. My expression was serene and profoundly focused. Occasionally, local women out for early chores, or children playing nearby would pass by, offering me a friendly greeting. I would look up and respond with a gentle smile. It was a faint grin, yet it was undeniably genuine, my eyes reflecting the morning glow and the shimmering water. It was a side of me she had never witnessed, a relaxed, vibrant, and breathtakingly handsome aura. Su Qingyuan lurked in the shadows of the alleyway, greedily drinking in this peaceful scene. The void in her heart, however, throbbed with even more intensity because of this beauty. My peace, my stillness, and my vitality had nothing to do with her. In fact, it was likely that only after leaving her completely was I able to reclaim them. This realization made her legs nearly buckle beneath her. Like a silent, weathered statue, she stood there for an eternity, until I finally packed up my sketches and wandered back to the inn with my basket in hand. That afternoon, she attempted to approach the Jiwan Inn, but was blocked by a kind-faced, yet sharp-eyed elderly woman running the place, mislooking for a room or a guest. "I'm looking for Shen Yanci." Su Qingyuan tried her best to make her voice sound calm and composed. "Oh, Xiaoyan," the woman smiled thinly. "He's out." "Are you a friend of his, miss?" "I am his." Su Qingyuan hesitated. His wife. The smile on the old woman's face instantly faded, her eyes narrowing with a cold, judgmental scrutiny. "Wife? He never mentioned one. He only said he came here alone to clear his head. If you have a message, leave it, and I'll pass it along when he returns." Su Qingyuan knew she wouldn't get any further. She left her contact information and turned to walk away. For the next 2 days, she haunted the vicinity of the inn like a restless ghost. She watched me buy groceries and prepare my own meals, hanging freshly laundered linens in the courtyard, exchanging idle chatter with the neighbors, or sitting on the stone steps by the river at dusk, watching the sunset bleed gold and crimson into the water. My life was simple, rhythmic, and serene. It was a life without him, and without those suffocating, venomous schemes, the constant humiliation and the endless pain. He felt like he was peering through a glass barrier, observing a beautiful world that no longer belonged to him. Until that third afternoon, when this fragile peace was shattered. A sleek black sedan, utterly out of place in this ancient town, screeched to a halt right in front of the inn. The door swung open, and Lu Jingming stepped out in his high-end designer shoes, exuding an aura of pure, unadulterated aggression. Su Qingyuan's heart sank instantly, and she immediately hurried after him. In the courtyard, I was resting on a bamboo chair, quietly pruning a small, delicate bonsai. "Shen Yanci, you relentless, haunting parasite." Lu Jingming's voice was shrill with hysterical agitation, violently piercing the tranquility of the small yard. "Have you no shame at all? You're already divorced from Qingyuan, yet you're hiding in this hole just to seduce him. Do you think showing off this face of yours is enough to steal him back? Let me tell you, you're delusional. The person Qingyuan loves is me. It has always been me. You are just a tool he used to spite his parents. A pathetic, laughable substitute." I set down the pruning shears, methodically reaching for a damp cloth nearby, to wipe my hands clean. Only then did I lift my gaze to meet Lu Jingming's eyes. "Sir, this is my residence. A private property. Please see yourself out." "Me get out," Lu Jingming scoffed in disbelief, stepping forward to point a finger directly at my face. "The one who needs to get lost is you. Do you dare deny that Qingyuan followed you here? That you didn't leak your location just to lure him back?" Su Qingyuan stepped into the courtyard at that exact moment, witnessing Lu Jingming's arrogant finger in my face, seeing his features contorted with ugly raw fury, and hearing every single venomous word spewing from his mouth. A tidal wave of unprecedented fury instantly consumed her. "Lu Jingming," she spoke, her voice not loud, but so freezing it sounded like cracking ice, oozing a terrifying lethal pressure. Lu Jingming's entire body stiffened. He spun around and seeing Su Qingyuan, instantly masked his face with grievance and panic. Qingyuan, how are you even here? Did you come all this way to find me? Is this man harassing you again? Su Qingyuan completely ignored his pleas, walking straight toward me, to shield me behind her back. Only then did she glare at Lu Jingming, her eyes radiating pure unadulterated disgust. I warned you never to show your face near him again. Do my words mean absolutely nothing to you? Qingyuan? Lu Jingming faltered, terrified by her gaze, his voice trembling violently. I'm just worried you're being played by this man. He's incredibly cunning. He played ugly just to trap you in marriage, and now he's showing his face to seduce you. Shut up, Su Qingyuan snapped, cutting him off, her tone more frigid and severe than ever before. Lu Jingming, for the sake of our history, I am granting you one final mercy. Vanish from my sight this instant. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to ensure the Lu family is erased from this city permanently. Lu Jingming looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. His eyes bulged in utter disbelief, his face turning as ghostly white as paper. What did you just say? You destroy the Lu family just for him. Su Qingyuan, how can you get him out of here? Su Qingyuan didn't spare him another glance. She signaled, two black-clad bodyguards who had materialized at the gate, giving them a cold curt order. The guards lunged forward immediately, seizing Lu Jingming by both arms. Qingyuan, you can't do this to me. I'm the one who truly loves you, this man. Lu Jingming struggled, shrieking like a madman, as he was ruthlessly dragged away by the guards. They shoved him into the car, and the vehicle sped off into the distance, his desperate screams finally fading away. Silence gradually reclaimed the small courtyard, leaving only the rustle of wind through bamboo leaves. Only then did Su Qingyuan turn to face me. I remained seated on the bamboo chair, eyes slightly downcast, staring at the fallen leaves crushed by Lu Jingming's boots. My expression remained completely vacant, as if that chaotic farce had nothing to do with me. Yanci, Su Qingyuan began, her voice dropping to a whisper, carrying a plea that bordered on pathetic humility. Please just come home with me. She stepped forward, reaching for my hand, but I effortlessly evaded her touch. I lifted my head to meet her gaze. Su Qingyuan, I started softly, each word like a shard of ice shattering on the ground. Do you still not understand? Su Qingyuan's heart constricted violently. The problem was never just Lu Jingming. It's you. It's that marriage built from the start on calculation, deception, and systematic humiliation. It's how you harbored another man in your heart, while using me as a mere pawn for 3 years. It's your silence when your mother called me an eyesore, labeling me a permanent stain on the Su family. It's that day at the boutique, when you snatched the suit from me to give to Lu Jingming. It's the police station where you claimed I lacked nothing, convinced that I was nothing but a liar. It's that moment in the sea when you swam for him without hesitation, without even casting a single backward glance at me. With every sentence I uttered, Su Qingyuan's face turned a shade paler. Su Qingyuan, I don't even hate you anymore. I stood up slowly, brushing non-existent dust from my clothes. Hating someone is far too exhausting, but I don't love you either, and I will never ever go back with you. I watched her face drain of all color, observing the surging agony and despair in her eyes. Yet I felt absolutely no ripple of emotion. There was only a vast, desolate peace. I'm doing quite well now, so please, I paused, staring directly into her bloodshot, reddened eyes. Get out of my world. Having finished, I didn't spare her another look, turning to disappear behind the ancient wooden door of the inn. With a soft click, the door drifted shut right before her eyes, completely severing her from that world of tranquility. Su Qingyuan finally returned to the capital, but while her body was back, her soul seemed to have been left behind, in that misty dreamlike water town. When Xiao Wangjin saw her again, she barely dared to recognize her. The composed and self-possessed Su Qingyuan was gone, replaced by a gambler driven mad by love. The first thing she did upon her return was unleash a thunderous strike against the Lu family. In a mere fortnight, the once glamorous Lu family was teetering on the edge, bordering on total bankruptcy. Lu's parents, swallowing their remaining pride, pleaded for mercy time and time again, even kneeling for hours before the Su Group headquarters. Lu Jingming himself knelt upon the freezing stone steps, ceaselessly crying out Su Qingyuan's name, desperately invoking their past affection, and begging her to show some mercy. Su Qingyuan refused to see him even once, only sending her assistant down to deliver a single warning: touch my person, pay the price. The words "my person" were heavy with intent, leaving no doubt as to who she was referring to. The news spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through their social circle. Who could have possibly imagined that Su Qingyuan, who once pampered Lu Jingming, could be this ruthless and cold-blooded once she turned? Shortly after, at a high-stakes business summit, it was Su Qingyuan's turn to take the floor. She took the stage but didn't immediately talk economics or discuss the future of the industry. Standing under the blinding spotlights, facing a sea of business elites, and the non-stop flashing of media cameras, she uncharacteristically brought up her private life. I would like to take this moment to clarify one thing. The divorce between me and my husband Shen Yanci was never my intention. It was the result of a grave misunderstanding. The room fell into a silence so absolute you could hear a pin drop. Countless eyes filled with shock, intrigue, and sheer disbelief were locked onto her. Su King Yuan met those gazes head on and continued, each word landing with the weight of a mountain. I hereby declare with the utmost gravity that the only husband Su King Yuan will ever have in this life is Shen Yanci and him alone. I am currently doing everything in my power to rectify my mistakes. She paused for a heartbeat, her gaze sweeping over the restless media frenzy below, as her voice dropped to a low, unmistakable warning. I urge everyone to refrain from intruding upon his private life. Grant us the space to heal and the opportunity to make amends. As she finished, the entire venue erupted into absolute chaos. In the next second, the roar of shutters and blinding flashes threatened to drown the hall. The trending searches exploded instantaneously. Su King Yuan's public pursuit of her husband. Su King Yuan's only husband, Shen Yanci, the CEO driven mad by love. Various hashtags surged with terrifying velocity, all marked with the crimson viral tag. When Mother Su saw the news, she shattered her teacup in a rage. She stormed into the headquarters, pointing a trembling finger at Su King Yuan's face. Are you insane for the sake of that man? You've thrown this family into turmoil. You pushed the Lu family to the brink of ruin, and now you humiliate us before the entire world. Su King Yuan looked up from her documents, her expression perfectly vacant. Yet her eyes were terrifyingly cold. Mother, she began, her calm voice carrying the weight of a gathering storm. If you still wish to call me your daughter, then you will respect my decision. Mother Su was momentarily choked by that chilling gaze, but her fury quickly resurfaced. You'd abandon your own mother for that man. Su King Yuan snapped the file shut, stood up, and walked to the window, turning her back. If I must choose between you and him, she paused, her voice low yet sharp as a blade. I choose him. Mother Su stumbled, clutching the edge of the desk. She stared in, pure disbelief at her daughter's rigid, solitary silhouette. She had never seen her like this before, like a lioness fully provoked, guarding her territory. Anyone who dared to approach her treasure would be torn to shreds. Su King Yuan didn't return to the water town immediately. She feared her presence would only unsettle me, afraid that his appearance would trigger my disappearance again. But he pivoted to a different tactic, interjecting his presence stubbornly into the cracks of my life. Every day a variety of packages arrived for me. Sometimes it was a bouquet of fresh purple irises, drenched in morning dew, with no signature on the card, only a printed verse, seeing this brilliance. How could one not be overjoyed? Sometimes it was an invitation to a private auction at a top-tier gallery, with a dog-eared page in the catalog marking an ancient jade that I had once glanced at for a second too long. Sometimes it was recipes for stomach-soothing medicinal meals, paired with premium ingredients sourced directly from their origin, complete with meticulously detailed brewing instructions. Other times it was merely a handwritten note, the script sharp and frantic, unmistakably Su King Yuan's handwriting. Yet the content was clumsily, almost laughably simple. Rain today, the river air is chilly, eat less cold food. My reaction remained chillingly consistent. I never even bothered to unwrap them. The flowers were left untouched at the inn's entrance, left to wither and rot under the sun and rain. The invitations and cards were tossed directly into the trash bin by the gate. The rare ingredients were handed over to the elderly lady next door. The landlady, watching this waste, finally couldn't help herself. While brewing tea, she nudged me. Yanci, that Miss Su, she sends gifts daily but never shows her face. It really seems like she's realized her mistakes and is drowning in regret. I was focused on sketching a bookmark, my pen never faltering at her words. I simply gave a faint, detached hum. Some mistakes can't be fixed just by feeling sorry, and some wounds won't heal just because of a few gifts. The landlady sighed, choosing to say no more. Meanwhile, the internet was anything but quiet. Some sharp-witted media vultures, sensing blood despite Su King Yuan's stern warnings, began tracking the clues in reverse. Someone eventually sniffed their way to the water town, locating the Jiyuan guest house, hungry for a massive scoop. But before the draft could even be finished, the outlet was slapped by the Su Group's legal department with a viciously worded cease and desist. Simultaneously, traffic across several major platforms was suppressed by a mysterious, overwhelming force. Trending topics were vaporized in seconds. Influencers seeking a chance encounter to farm clout couldn't even set foot in the ancient town before being intercepted by suddenly bolstered security and persuaded to leave by overly helpful locals. Under this eerie, suffocating blanket of total protection, my life miraculously maintained a surface-level calm. I knew exactly whose hand was behind this, but I felt no gratitude, only exhaustion and a sickening sense of the absurd. Meanwhile, Lu Jingming's life plummeted from heaven to hell. The Lu family went bankrupt, their luxury villas, supercars and jewels were auctioned off for pennies. The sycophants who once worshipped him scattered like rats, leaving every number in his contacts unreachable. He went from the center of the universe as the Lu heir to a pathetic joke that everyone actively avoided, drowning in debt with nowhere to crawl. The staggering fall from grace, and a bone-deep hatred burned through him day and night. He pinned every ounce of his misfortune on me, claiming I stole Qingyuan by playing ugly and that I was the one who ruined his life. With the last bit of cash from hawking his jewelry, he didn't pay off debts or buy a meal. Instead, through back alley shady connections, he recruited a gang of desperate outlaws. "The money is yours," he hissed, shoving a stack of cash toward them, his eyes bloodshot and his face horribly contorted. I want that man's face destroyed. I want him utterly ruined, begging for the sweet release of death. A few evenings later, as I returned from a sketching session, passing the mouth of a desolate narrow alley, a filthy battered van screeched to a sudden halt beside me. The side door slammed open with a metallic rattle, and two burly arms lunged out from the dark. One hand clamped violently over my mouth, while the other locked around my waist, hurling me brutally into the vehicle. Before I could even scream for help, a foul-smelling rag was pressed hard against my face. A pungent chemical stench flooded my lungs, and after a few futile struggles, my consciousness rapidly spiraled into darkness. The final image I caught was Lu Jingming's, face twisted with a sickening cocktail of madness and pure hate. Meanwhile, Su Qingyuan was in the middle of a high-stakes multinational video conference. While the foreign reps on screen detailed the partnership, her phone vibrated violently on the desk. It was the lead of the team tasked with my shadow protection. The emergency line. "President Su, something's gone wrong. Mr. Shen was abducted by a van at the alley entrance. Our men lost the tail. They're pros at counter-surveillance. The plates are fake." The color in Su Qingyuan's face vanished in an instant, leaving her deathly pale. "Location, the last known location." Her voice was raw and hoarse, as if each word was being clawed out of her throat. "Heading toward the old West Side industrial zone. But the roads there are a labyrinth, and full of CCTV blind spots. Deploy every single soul we have. Lock down every exit out of the city. Scour every warehouse and every abandoned factory in that zone," Su Qingyuan barked, her words coming out with terrifying speed, carrying a lethal edge of near-total hysteria. "Contact the police. Request maximum priority assistance in my name now." She slammed the phone shut. Without a single word of explanation to the meeting, she snatched her keys and bolted out. The elevator was agonizingly slow. She charged down the stairwell instead. Reaching the underground garage, she ignited the engine, making it roar like a cornered beast, and tore out of the building like a guided missile. No, this won't work. The car is too slow." She slammed on the brakes, the tires screaming against the concrete in a piercing wail. She whipped out her phone and dialed another number, her voice trembling from the sheer weight of absolute terror and tension. "Get the chopper to the roof now, wait for me. Full throttle to Nanjun. To hell with the meeting. To hell with the business. To hell with everything." A single solitary obsession remained in her mind, spinning frantically, until her skull felt ready to burst. "I cannot let anything happen to him. He absolutely cannot be harmed." In transit, her hands trembled so violently she could barely grip the controls. The deafening roar of the helicopter couldn't drown out the chaotic thundering of her heart. Fear surged over her like freezing seawater, threatening to pull her under. Every frantic breath tasted of rusty metallic blood. She didn't dare contemplate what kind of atrocities that lunatic Lu Jingming might commit. She didn't dare imagine the agony I might be enduring. If I really, Su Qingyuan snapped her eyes shut, then forced them open again, glaring death at the gloomy gray horizon ahead. He won't. She would never allow it.